A quiet Anne Arundel County community is left stunned after the murder of a married couple. And this morning, a suspect is in custody.
Let's get to Fox 5. Stephanie Ramirez, she's live this morning in Pasadena, Maryland with more. Steph.
Marissa, Makia, we know the married couple. They have been identified as 56-year-old William Hayes and his wife, 54-year-old Jeanna Hayes. This whole horrific scene unfolding inside their Twinkenberg Road home behind me. Now, it's hard to see at this hour, very quiet here, but police say this was a little before 2 in the afternoon yesterday, and they were able to make an arrest within a few hours thanks to a 911 call made. And they wanted the community to know about this, know that this was not a random act.
This is a community where neighbors become family, and so it was important for us to also be able to share with them that we do have this suspect in custody and they can rest a bit more tonight. We know that they are reeling with grief, and again, our hearts go out to them.
When a 911 operator answered Jeanna Hayes' call on November 17th, 2024, they heard a woman begging for her life, pleading with a man she called Tony not to shoot her while her husband Charlie argued about money in the background. Minutes later, both William and Jeanna Hayes were dead, shot in their own home by their business associate, who confessed to the murders before leading police on a high-speed chase to a casino. Jeanna was 54 years old. Charlie was 56. They'd been married for decades and built a successful home improvement business together in Pasadena, Maryland. They were killed by 61-year-old Anthony Luis Reyes, a man they'd given a second chance to after learning he'd been stealing from their company. Instead of gratitude, they got bullets. The evidence against Reyes, his own confession to a witness, made just 2 hours after murders. This is the William and Jeanna Hayes case. William Hayes, everyone called him Charlie, was 56 years old and had spent over 4 decades building something meaningful. In 1982, he founded C.W. Hayes Home Improvement LLC, a construction and home improvement business that operated right out of his home in Pasadena, Maryland. Charlie wasn't just a businessman. People who worked with him described him as a mentor, someone who took younger workers under his wing and taught them construction trade. He had a reputation in the community for quality work and fair dealing. His company had excellent reviews, and he'd built relationships with clients that lasted years. Jeanna Lorraine Hayes was 54 years old. She worked alongside her husband in the family business, handling the administrative side, while Charlie focused on construction work. Together, they turned their home at 1705 Twickenham Road in the Long Point community into both their residence and their business headquarters. The couple lived in a quiet, close-knit waterfront neighborhood about 15 miles outside Baltimore. Long Point was the kind of place where families had lived for generations, where people decorated for holidays together, where violent crime was virtually non-existent. The Hayes home was in the 1700 block of Twickenham Road, surrounded by other family homes in the community that valued peace and safety. Charlie and Jeanna had an adult granddaughter who lived with them. She wasn't home on November 17th. Her boyfriend had picked her up to watch a game. That absence likely saved her life. The Hayes were just days away from Thanksgiving 2024. Their neighborhood was already putting up holiday decorations. They were looking forward to the season with their family. They had no idea that someone they tried to help was about to destroy everything. Anthony Luis Reyes was 61 years old, living in Nottingham, Maryland. November 17th, 2024 was his birthday, the same day he would murder the Hayes couple. Reyes had a documented criminal history stretching back nearly 40 years. In the mid-1980s, he'd been convicted twice in Baltimore County for break-in and burglary. Those crimes earned him more than 20 years in prison. Court documents describe him as a repeat offender. He'd spent a significant portion of his adult life behind bars. But at some point after his release, Reyes connected with Charlie Hayes and C.W. Hayes Home Improvement. The exact timeline isn't clear from public records, but what is documented is that Reyes worked with or for the Hayes business. He had both a personal and professional relationship with the couple. Charlie Hayes was known for mentoring people, for giving second chances, for believing people could turn their lives around. According to someone claiming to be Reyes' cousin, that's exactly what Charlie had done for Reyes. He was stealing from the company, the woman told reporters after the murders. Charlie found out he was stealing. The man gave him another chance in life, and he took it and destroyed it. That statement, if accurate, explains everything about what happened on November 17th. Reyes wasn't just an employee or business associate. He was someone who betrayed Charlie's trust, been caught, been given another chance, and apparently continued stealing anyway. The motive that would emerge from the 911 call and subsequent investigation was simple: money. Reyes owed the Hayes or had stolen from them, and Charlie had confronted him about it. Rather than face the consequences, Reyes chose murder. Before we continue with this tragic story, if you're fascinated by true crime cases like this one, head over to truecrmallures.com, where you'll find handcrafted mystery boxes, case file journals, and exclusive true crime merchandise for fans who want to dive deeper into these real-life mysteries. Sunday, November 17th, started like any other day in the Long Point community of Pasadena, Maryland. It was early afternoon, around 1:55 p.m., when everything went wrong at the Hayes residence. Anthony Reyes was at the Hayes home. The exact reason for his visit isn't fully documented in public records, but what happened next was captured in horrifying detail through a 911 call. Jeanna Hayes called 911. When the operator answered, they heard a woman in distress. Jeanna was pleading with someone, a man she identified as Tony. "Don't shoot me," Jeanna begged. In the background, the 911 operator could hear Charlie, Jeanna's husband, arguing with Tony about money. The dispute was financial. Money owed, money stolen. Money that caused this confrontation to spiral into something deadly. Then the operator heard gunshots. Jeanna called out to Charlie. She pleaded again not to be shot. The terror in her voice was unmistakable. She knew what was about to happen. More gunshots rang out. Then silence. Complete, devastating silence. When police arrived at 1705 Twickenham Road around 2 p.m., they found William Charlie Hayes and Jeanna Lorraine Hayes shot to death inside their own home. The couple had been killed in their residence, the same building where they'd run their business for decades, the place where they'd built their life together. The crime scene told a clear story. This wasn't a random attack. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was targeted. Someone had come to the Hayes home and executed them over a money dispute. But police had a critical piece of evidence that would break the case wide open in hours rather than days. The 911 call. Jeanna Hayes had identified her killer by name before she died. Tony was on that recording, arguing with Charlie about money, moments before the gunshots. Lieutenant A.J. Gardner of the Arundel County Police Department told reporters, "This isn't something that's random. There's no random shooter out there. We do believe this person was here for a purpose. That purpose was clear. The motive was money, and the killer's identity was already known, thanks to Jeanna's final desperate call for help. At approximately 4 p.m., just 2 hours after murders, a witness received a phone call that would seal Anthony Reyes' fate. Reyes called someone he knew. In that conversation, he admitted what he'd done. He told the witness that he had shot Charlie and Jeannie. He confessed to double murder over the phone. But Reyes wasn't calling to turn himself in. He was calling to announce his next move. He told the witness he was going to Maryland Live, casino and hotel in Hanover. Why casino? The answer would never be fully explained. Perhaps Reyes thought he could gamble his way to escape money. Perhaps he was planning to flee after a final hurrah. Perhaps he simply wasn't thinking rationally after committing double murder. Whatever his reasoning, the destination gave police exactly what they needed. The witness immediately contacted police and provided crucial details. Reyes was driving a black Toyota Camry with Mississippi license plates. He was headed to Maryland Live, casino in Hanover, and Arundel County police moved fast. They used automated license plate reader, LPR, technology to locate Reyes' vehicle. These systems scan and track license plates across a network of cameras, allowing law enforcement to find specific vehicles in real time. Around 6:27 p.m., less than 4.5 hours after murders, police spotted Reyes' black Toyota Camry in the area of Bluestone Street, Ridge Road, and Severn Road in Hanover, not far from the casino. Officers attempted a traffic stop. Reyes fled. He initiated a high-speed police chase rather than face arrest for what he'd done. The chase tore through Hanover. with Reyes desperately trying to evade the growing number of police vehicles pursuing him. But there was no escape. After approximately 7 minutes, the chase ended on Route 97, also known as I-97, at the intersection of Quarterfield Road and George Closs Boulevard. Officers surrounded Reyes' vehicle and ordered him out. When they attempted to take him into custody, Reyes resisted. There was a brief physical struggle. One officer sustained minor injuries during the confrontation, though police later reported the officer would be okay. At approximately 6:34 p.m., Anthony Luis Reyes was in handcuffs. The manhunt had lasted less than 5 hours from the time of the murders. Thanks to his own confession to a witness, the witness's immediate cooperation with police, and effective use of ALPR technology, law enforcement had their suspect in custody before the day was over. But one critical piece of evidence was still missing: the murder weapon. Police did not recover a firearm from Reyes at the time of his arrest. The gun he'd used to kill Charlie and Jeanna Hayes was gone, possibly ditched during the drive to Hanover, possibly hidden, possibly disposed of at the casino. To this day, investigators have not publicly announced recovering the weapon. The investigation into the Hayes murders moved with remarkable speed, driven by one crucial piece of evidence: Jeanna Hayes' 911 call. When police arrived at 1705 Twickenham Road around 2 p.m. on November 17th, they found William and Jeanna Hayes dead from gunshot wounds. The scene was inside their home, their private residence and business headquarters. Crime scene investigators immediately began processing the scene, documenting evidence, collecting ballistic materials, and reconstructing what had occurred. But investigators already had something that would typically take days or weeks to develop: a suspect's identity. The 911 recording captured Jeanna pleading with Tony not to shoot her. It captured Charlie arguing with Tony about money. It captured the gunshots that ended both their lives. That single piece of audio evidence eliminated the most time-consuming part of any murder investigation: figuring out who did it. Police knew within minutes of arriving at the scene that they were looking for someone named Tony, who had a financial dispute with the Hayes. The 911 call also established motive. The argument was about money. Whatever financial relationship existed between Reyes and Hayes, whether it was money owed, money stolen, or money disputed, it had escalated to the point where Reyes believed murder was a solution. At 4 p.m., just 2 hours after the killings, investigators received a phone call from the witness that changed everything. Reyes had contacted someone and confessed. He admitted he'd shot Charlie and Jeannie. He announced he was going to Maryland Live, casino in Hanover. He gave away his location and his vehicle description. That confession, made freely to a witness who immediately cooperated with police, became the centerpiece of the case against Reyes. Combined with the 911 recording, investigators now had both identification and admission of guilt. When police located Reyes' black Toyota Camry, using the LPR technology, they had the right vehicle with Mississippi plates just as the witness had described. When Reyes fled from officers, initiating a high-speed chase, he demonstrated consciousness of guilt. When he resisted arrest at the end of that chase, he further confirmed he knew exactly what he'd done and why police were after him. The investigation was essentially complete within hours. Police had the 911 recording identifying Reyes and establishing the money motive. They had Reyes' own confession to a witness. They had Reyes' flight from police and resistance to arrest. They had witness statements from neighbors who heard or saw relevant events. They had the crime scene evidence showing 2 people shot to death in their home. What they didn't have was the murder weapon. That missing firearm remained a gap in the physical evidence, though it didn't meaningfully weaken the case given the overwhelming other evidence against Reyes. Police Chief Amal Awad addressed the media about the tragedy. It's just terribly horrific, especially right before the holiday season. The chief's words reflected what everyone in the community felt, shocked that such violence had erupted in a quiet neighborhood just days before Thanksgiving. Lieutenant Gardner's statement that this person was here for a purpose proved accurate. The evidence showed a targeted attack driven by a financial dispute, not a random act of violence. Reyes had gone to the Hayes home, argued with him about money, and when the argument didn't go his way, he'd retrieved a gun and murdered them both. Anthony Luis Reyes made his first court appearance on Monday, November 18th, 2024, the day after the murders. Reyes was charged with multiple serious offenses: 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of first-degree assault, 2 counts of second-degree assault. The multiple murder charges reflect the dual nature of the crime. Both victims, both killed intentionally. The assault charges likely relate to the acts of pointing and firing a weapon at the victims. In Maryland, first-degree murder carries a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. With 2 counts, Reyes faces a possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars if convicted. During his initial appearance, Reyes was ordered held without bond. The court determined that given the severity of the charges, double murder, and the evidence against him, he posed too great a danger to the community and flight risk to be released on any bond amount. Reyes waived his right to a bail review hearing. That meant he chose not to argue for bond to be set, essentially accepting that he would remain in custody throughout the legal proceedings. The court asked Reyes if he'd received the charging documents detailing the accusations against him. His response was telling: "I didn't receive nothing." Whether that statement referred to the physical documents or was a broader complaint about his circumstances isn't clear from the record. What is clear is that Reyes applied for a public defender, indicating he lacked the financial resources to hire private counsel. Reyes remains held at the Jennifer Road Detention Center in Arundel County, awaiting trial. The prosecution's case appears overwhelming based on publicly available information. They have a 911 recording of Jeanna Hayes identifying Tony by name and capturing the argument about money before the gunshots. They have Reyes' confession to a witness just 2 hours after the murders, admitting he shot Charlie and Jeannie. They have Reyes' flight from police and resistance to arrest. They have the crime scene evidence showing both victims shot to death in their home. The defense will face significant challenges. Reyes' own words, confessing to the witness that he shot the Hayes, may be difficult to explain away. The 911 recording provides near real-time documentation of the crime occurring. The flight from police demonstrates consciousness of guilt. Any potential defense strategy hasn't been publicly announced. The case remains in its preliminary stages, with further court proceedings pending. If you're captivated by cases like this and want to explore more true crime stories, visit True Crime Lures on YouTube for more curated mystery boxes, detective-style case files, and premium true crime collectibles. William Charlie Hayes was 56 years old. He'd spent 42 years building C.W. Hayes Home Improvement LLC, creating a reputation for quality work and fair dealing. He mentored younger workers, gave people second chances, and built something meaningful in his community. Jeanna Lorraine Hayes was 54 years old. She worked alongside her husband, managing the business side of their company, supporting Charlie's work, and helping build a life they created together. They were killed in their own home, in broad daylight, on a Sunday afternoon. They were killed by someone Charlie had caught stealing from the company and given another chance. They were killed because Anthony Reyes decided that murdering them was preferable to facing the financial consequences of his actions. Their adult granddaughter, who lived with them, is now without the grandparents who'd taken her in and cared for her. Tony Arnold spoke about how Charlie took care of my daughter, providing stability and support for his granddaughter when she needed it. The family friend Mason Burris lost a mentor who taught him the construction trade and been a good guy to our family. The Long Point community lost 2 neighbors who'd been part of their close-knit waterfront enclave for years. The sense of safety that residents had taken for granted, the belief that their quiet neighborhood was protected from this kind of violence, was shattered. Anthony Luis Reyes sits in the Jennifer Road Detention Center, held without bond, awaiting trial on 2 counts of first-degree murder and multiple additional charges. He faces the possibility of life in prison, without parole if convicted. His 61st birthday, November 17, 2024, will forever be remembered as the day he destroyed multiple lives, including his own. The murder weapon remains missing. Police have not announced recovering the firearm Reyes used to kill Charlie and Jeanna Hayes. Whether it was disposed of during his drive to the casino, hidden somewhere in Hanover, or discarded along the route of the police chase, the gun has not been found. The case raises difficult questions about second chances and betrayal. Charlie Hayes did what many would consider the right thing. He caught Reyes stealing, But instead of immediately firing him or pressing charges, he gave him another opportunity. He believed people could change. He offered redemption. Reyes repaid that kindness with bullets. The 911 recording will haunt anyone who hears it. Jeanna Hayes' voice, pleading with Tony not to shoot her. Charlie arguing about money in the background. The gunshots. Jeanna calling out at Charlie. More shots. Silence. She died knowing exactly who was killing her and why. She died begging for her life. She died because of money. Money that could never be worth what was taken from her family and community. As the case moves through the legal system, the Hayes family prepares to face holidays without Charlie and Jeanna. Thanksgiving came less than a week after murders. Christmas followed. New Year's. Every celebration, now marked by absence. The Long Point community continues trying to process how this happened in their quiet neighborhood. How someone could walk into a home in broad daylight on a Sunday afternoon and execute two people over money. How someone given a second chance could respond with such devastating violence. For Charlie and Jeanna Hayes, there are no more second chances, no more holidays, no more mentoring young workers, no more building their business, no more caring for their granddaughter. Just two empty seats at every family gathering from now on, and the terrible knowledge of exactly how and why they died. The murders of Charlie and Jeanna Hayes devastated the Long Point community. This was a neighborhood where violent crime simply didn't happen. A quiet, close-knit waterfront area where families had lived for generations and knew their neighbors. Tony Arnold, identified as the parent of the Hayes granddaughter, spoke to media about the loss. I just can't believe somebody viciously murdered them in broad daylight. He didn't deserve that. He took care of his wife. He took care of my daughter. It just breaks my heart. Arnold's words captured the randomness of the violence. Broad daylight, in their own home, killed by someone they tried to help. Charlie Hayes had taken care of his family, had built a business that provided for them, had mentored young workers, and given second chances to people like Reyes. His reward was murder. Mason Burris, described as a family friend who'd been mentored by Charlie in the construction business, struggled to process what had happened. It seems unreal. He was a good guy to our family, him and his wife. That phrase, "it seems unreal," echoed through the community. The Long Point neighborhood was already decorating for Thanksgiving and Christmas when the murders occurred. Houses had holiday lights and decorations. Families were planning gatherings. And then two of their neighbors were shot to death over money. The case drew attention beyond the immediate community. News of the murders spread through in Arundel County and across the Baltimore metropolitan area. The detail that Jeanna Hayes had died while begging for her life on a 911 call, pleaded with her killer not to shoot her, made the tragedy even more haunting. Police Chief Awad's comment about the timing, especially right before the holiday season, resonated with many. The Hayes should have been preparing for Thanksgiving dinner with their granddaughter and family. Instead, their family was planning funerals. Anthony Luis Reyes remains in custody awaiting trial. The investigation is complete and legal proceedings are ongoing. However, the murder weapon has not been recovered.